Hi everybody and welcome to another edition of Ljubljana Talks, recorded live at IMEX 2026 here in Frankfurt. And with Gorazd we have another great guest, Colja Dams from VOK Dams, a true legend of the industry. Great to have you back.
Thank you for having me.
Colja, you've shared with us on different occasions so many interesting insights into the industry, into the life, into the world. But one of the things that I always remember is that hamburger of AI that you showed us. Does that still apply? And if you can explain it perhaps to our viewers.
Absolutely. The hamburger model is basically our internal model, how we use AI. Like the hamburger picture, in the middle, the beef is the AI tool, but it's not about the AI tool. They will change over time. There will be different ones coming, but it's all about the bun on top and bottom. And this is the human being actually using the AI. So this is what's going to make the difference. So it's not the tool, it's the people using the tools. And this is very true even today.
Well, I have so many questions, but let's go on with that. Doppelgänger, tell us more about that.
Doppelgänger is actually, we started creating, in the old days, we created personas. We created personas, and creating personas of the people in the audience was a very simple move, but the personas was a description of the people. Now, with the power of AI, we've created a behavioral model that lets us clone the audiences. And now when you clone the audience, you have your audience in your virtual room even before the event. So you can test drive your entire event before you spend any euro of your budget, and make sure that everything you spend will help you to really reach the goal of your event.
It's amazing. Let's move to China. The new office you just opened. What is going on there? For those who do not know the market or they don't really see China as a superpower, what can you say about China and meetings industry there?
I have to admit I'm a bit biased because I love China. We have been the first Western agency for events in China. We have been in China with VOK Dams for over 20 years now. And we have an amazing team now in Beijing, was our first office, then Shanghai, then Hong Kong, and now the newest addition is Shenzhen. And China is really incredible right now. I do remember 20 plus years ago when I traveled to China, I had the feeling I was traveling back in time. Now traveling to China, I have the feeling I'm traveling into the future. And it's amazing how far China is ahead, not just in how they build products, the entire processes for everything, also in events.
They say that in Shenzhen the future is being built. Do you see it?
It's incredible. I mean, I'm also biased because I'm a bit of a geeky guy. So I do love lots of gadgets, but you have autonomous driving cars. You can pay with the palm of your hand. Yeah, which you just call with your app. If you are in a park, you can basically order anything from McDonald's to bubble tea via an app, and it will be delivered by drone to you. It's incredible. It's an incredible efficient city. It takes you only minutes to get around, not with crazy traffic. You have robots everywhere. You have a robot restaurant. It's incredible. It's like the future. And we see more and more groups wanting to see the future. And in the past, a lot of these leadership meetings we have been taking to the Silicon Valley. Today, we're taking them to Shenzhen. So we have more and more multinational companies doing their board meetings, doing their leadership meetings, doing their future culture meetings in Shenzhen to just breathe the atmosphere and see what's happening there.
As China is such a big market for you, where do the events differ in China to Europe, for instance?
Events play a crucial role in China. I mean, they play a crucial role everywhere in the world. So we see budgets shrinking, but the amount of budget, so the overall share of marketing budget that goes into live events is rising. And in China, even more so. China basically skipped the virtual event part during the pandemic, and they're a lot more focused on reaching their targets with events in this part. So therefore, especially with Chinese brands not having a lot of heritage, they need to be building up their brand perception on a much faster scale. And they have discovered that it's all about events, to build loyalty, to build trust in your event, in your product. You have to get people close to the product, and this is what events are like.
Is there something like Chinese design of events or something like Chinese pitching? Can you share some of the secrets, little secrets about it?
There's especially China speed. So decisions are taken a lot faster. We get RFPs for events from Chinese companies, but also for projects in Paris, in Athens, in London right now. So we are supporting lots of Chinese corporations going to Europe, going to the US, going to the consumer electronics shows in Las Vegas. And usually if we get from an international brand, we get an RFP for a project of a certain size, we usually have 6 months to at a minimum. In China, we have 6 weeks. So we are getting contacted now from an automotive brand in China that wants to do a test drive with 350 journalists in June, somewhere in Spain. So now we have less than 4 weeks preparation time, and this is amazing. So, but decisions are being taken fast, and a lot of Chinese companies then scout the market. They're also not pitching a lot. They are picking the right agency, and we are lucky enough to be the right agency for Chinese companies, especially because we also have Chinese-speaking staff in our European offices and in our US offices to help with projects abroad.
So it was a very tactical and good move, you know, to move to China 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But what is your idea about the next big trend coming to our industry, since we all eagerly wait for your presentations and what your team is actually usually presenting? Is there something like that cooking in your kitchen?
I believe there are very many trends, but the biggest trend right now is events. Events as becoming more and more valuable in the entire value chain of communication from brands. And while that becomes important, the planning process needs to become important. And therefore, the biggest trend is, even if it has a boring title, which is data-driven event management. And this is where digital doppelgangers help too, that we are now planning events on the basis of data, AI-generated data, which we did not used to have in the past.
Data and events, measuring the value of an event. You know, just we always say that networking is a crucial part, that, you know, is that magical part of an event. How do you measure that?
This is an interesting question, because getting to digital doppelgangers and get them working, the very first thing you have to do is to figure out what is the goal of the event. And therefore AI now helps us to do something what we should have done all over the time, to figure out what is the goal of the event. We call it the event call to action. And basically it's answering one very simple question. What should the attendees do after the event? And now let's take networking as an example. The first thing we would now ask the digital doppelgangers or play through with them would be, how do we, after we have discovered what they we want them to do after the event, what is helping us to achieve this goal. And it may be networking. And then if we then see it is networking, how can we encourage the networking? But the amazing thing, and this is really, it's not a tool, it's really a shift right now. It's that we are not measuring after the event what should have happened, but that we are planning ahead what can happen at the event. And this is amazing. And this is therefore, I believe, the biggest.
So you are taking event design completely back to the drawing board.
We're actually doing nothing else what we should have done and what we did do in the past a lot of times. So when we got an RFP coming in, what we would do, we would use the parts of classical market surveys, finding out more on the amazing. I have to take this back. How do we find out more on what is actually the core of what we're doing? So we used classical market research to talk to the audiences and actually just took a part of them, did in-depth interviews, and really started with the very first question. If I know what my target group is supposed to be doing after the event, what keeps them from doing this now? And that was the very first question what we tried to figure out to make sure that the event is the right means of communication to tackle this thing. And like you said, we're basically just going back to the drawing board, but with the classical market research that was expensive and it took time. And especially when we're talking about China speed now, we don't have this time. But we want to make sure that we spend the money on the event wisely before we spend it and not just measure it afterwards.
It's amazing. But what is then the role of creative director, which was very strong personality, I would say, before AI?
Very good question. The creative director has still an extremely crucial role because we are cloning the audience. We are not cloning event creatives. So you can ask the digital doppelganger, come up with a concept like you can ask ChatGPT or your audience. And because everyone can do events, they'll give you some ideas what they did for their 50th birthday. But that's not what you do. So the digital doppelganger are like your advisory board, the people that you challenge your ideas with. You still have to come up with the ideas. So you still need the creative direction. You still need the strategy. You need to come up with the overall guest flow and then take it to the next level.
Amazing. Do you have any idea, Colja, how many reductions will how many processes will AI take over and reduce the costs of the agency with that?
Very many, but it will just shift what we've been doing so far. So AI will not, I still believe, AI will not get rid of people. Will be doing annoying tasks, getting a lot faster. And especially if you take it into research right now, how are you picking venues, destinations? How are you checking availability? All of the things where you now pick out destinations, write emails, and get the feedback in weeks or so. This you can all automate today. But the core, to really make sure that the target is met, this is amazing. Circling back to the hamburger model, there's one downside of the hamburger model that we're now feeling, and I get approached a lot of times because it is actually putting a lot of pressure on people. Because if it's not the AI tool in the middle, but it's you as a project manager, how you're using this AI, it's by the end of the day, it doesn't depend on the tool, it's depending on you. And therefore, there's lots of potential for people that have the ability and just have the fun experimenting with new stuff and love to incorporate it. So therefore, I believe this is the biggest shift our industry has ever seen that is coming here right now. And I'm feeling super excited about it. I hope you can tell.
We can feel it. What is then definition of the great event for you now, after all what we talked about?
The great event, and this is extremely important, is the event that reaches or overachieves the goal that we have set for the event. And therefore it's extremely important. A lot of times we get asked, what is the best KPI for an event? It is a question you cannot answer. You can only answer the question, if I set a goal, what are my audiences supposed to do after the event? Then I can measure the steps to get them to do this. And now I automatically have the KPIs. So basic KPIs mean nothing. They only mean something if you base them on a clear set goal in the beginning, what we call the event call to action.
So because we are talking about shortening of the time for preparing an event, and we're talking about being able to measure the effects of the event, do you see that the clients are actually coming to you with better RFPs, or do you have to teach them how to make the whole, what do they want to do?
Most important in an event RFP is that the client defines the goal. And this is what we see where AI and digital doppelgängers are helping, because when we create the digital doppelgängers, first thing we need to find out everything possible about the audience, which is easy. We basically scrape this from the internet, but we need to have a clear goal. And this is the perfect corporate event RFP, the perfect corporate event RFP may be very short. It needs to define the goal. And this is the longest it takes. And therefore, I do see now that, especially with budgets under pressure, clients are putting a lot of thought into this. So we're not going to a trade show because we're going to a trade show, but we are thinking clearly about what's our goal? Why are we doing this event? And this is the most important question.
Very much interesting. But coming back to the marketing agencies, you mentioned that they're losing part of the business, probably, no? And they switch to the live events or live experiences. But how good they are by your experience? Do they recognize our potential of event agencies, 360 event agencies, or they're trying to do this by themselves? What is happening?
We do see a run for event agencies. There are more event agencies coming, and while digital agencies, all kinds of other agencies are under pressure, I do see more business coming to event agencies all over the world right now. And the event agency is the highest growing sector in the entire communication orchestra. If you talk about classical advertisement, online, digital, this is all pretty much flatlining or declining. It's all about events agencies.
Very good sign. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the end, more or less, of this discussion, but I have so many questions left. So basically, we are closing usually with some fire talks. You know that very well. So mine will be very simple one. Sea or mountains?
Sea in summer, mountains in winter.
China or Europe?
China.
Okay, and last but not least, we have some special questions here for you. You will pick up 3. Jan will shake this a little bit.
Okay.
Nice.
I pick one, or?
You will pick 3 actually later on.
3,
okay.
Right away. Okay. I got 4. All right.
and you should read it and actually explain it.
Which city has the best spaces for meaningful conversations? Wow, tricky questions. Which city has the best spaces for meaningful conversations? I've been to Bordeaux over the weekend, and I was impressed by how many amazing small venues there are in Bordeaux, France, that can be used in the. But I also remember being in Ljubljana and enjoying it very much, and you know, actually there was one thing what I was surprised by the most. There was one place I was walking by in Ljubljana where you could get Colja toast. I'm not sure if you've seen that, which is a very specific Singaporean breakfast dish. I've never seen it anywhere else in the world but in Ljubljana, where probably a Singaporean, it was closed at the time, Singaporean is opening a shop to serve pure Singaporean breakfast. So so check it out. They had Colja toast on it. I've never seen it anywhere outside Singapore, anywhere in the world before. Let's do the next one.
Small but global.
Yes. What should event organizers do most courageously? I believe is to pressure on getting a clear goal for the event, and not just do an anniversary event because it's an anniversary. Anniversary may be a reason, but it's not a goal, and therefore make sure that you get a clear goal what you're trying to achieve with the event, so that you know what you're working forward to. Which destination would you choose for one final event? Oh, that gets like my final event, like my last before I die event. Okay, that is probably going to be then home, where I invite all my friends.
We did come to the end of this amazing conversation, but there is one question I want to ask you before we stop. And that is because we have an audience that is very diverse. There's also a lot of students and young people that listen to this. What would be your instruction for young people how to look at the industry, how to get into the industry, and why?
I had the pleasure to just meet here at the show very many young people that are considering coming into this industry. So my suggestion is just do it. This is by far the most amazing industry. Yes, it has some long hours, but no matter what you do in our industry, where in the hospitality industry you are, you get your feedback right away. You get the feedback of your guests right away, and this instantly. And this is a benefit that almost, in my opinion, and I'm a bit biased, but in my opinion, no other job in the world has. So join the events industry.
Colja Dams, thank you so much for coming to Ljubljana Talks again, and amazing sharing of information. Thank you very much. And everybody, stay tuned for more great conversations.
Thank you for having me.